Hey there, everyone. Welcome to the first live stream for Pro Tools Artists. We have a packed show today with some awesome guests. I cannot wait to start. We have some great questions and we want to get you guys involved as well. So please do drop questions and any conversation you want to pick up as well. Today, we are going to be discussing Pro Tools Artists. And we've got some awesome guests on. So let's just start straight away. We're going to have Wayne and Lydia to start. So guys, if you're there.
We're here. What's up, everybody?
Hey, mate, what's popping?
Hey, love that. I love that. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. Excited to be here today.
Definitely.
Excited to have you guys. I'm super excited. Wayne, we're always talking Lydia as well, and I can't wait to dive in. There's so many things that I want to cover today as well. And obviously, Pro Tools Artists being one of our first kind of like in our tiers that we've got, it's our first choice there. Mm-hmm. So and you get a lot in there. So I want to kind of cover that today as well and go over the session that you guys have provided and worked on, and super excited to go over that. So I don't know, do you want to give maybe an intro to yourselves there as well? So then we could start with the session.
All right, for sure. Let's Lydia, go ahead.
Yeah. So my name is Lydia Caesar, and I am a recording artist, a singer, songwriter as well. And I'm here mainly because my husband is like one of the best at Pro Tools, right? So he said he's the best at Pro Tools. And that's mainly how we work, how we've been working for the past 10 years. He and I together, we collaborate on so many different projects, and we mainly we use Pro Tools, pretty much plain and simple. So we worked on a demo session for the new upgrades to Pro Tools. And, we're excited to go through that session with you guys, share a little bit of our process. And that's basically.
Word up, man. What's up, y'all? I'm Wavy Wayne, of course, and I have been using Pro Tools. Man, when I started using Pro Tools, probably about like 2007, right? So it's been a long journey for me. Pro Tools is literally the staple of my career. It's one of the things that I open up and do every single day. There's something involved with Pro Tools. So I also have a YouTube channel where I educate the up and coming producers and engineers on how to get started using Pro Tools to make the most of this, professional application. And I love to make it simple, make it easy so that, even if you're an artist or a producer, you can jump in and start, making the music that you have on your heart, making the music that's in your soul without all these barriers. A lot of other DAWs may present a lot of barriers, but I love how Pro Tools artists just really knocks those down. So I'm excited to be a part of that and then show y'all some of the stuff that you can do with the new Pro Tools demo session that everybody gets when you download your Pro Tools.
Yes.
That's dope.
I love it.
Love it. Thank you. And I can't wait because I just can't wait to touch on also like the education side as well, Wayne, that you're crossing over to as well, which is insanely important. And obviously, Lydia, being an artist and opening your laptop, pressing record and just being able to knock down some harmonies and create something, get it over to the engineer, just the easy kind of way from starting with an idea, songwriting, all the way up to actually using Avid Play to upload your music and actually distribute it as well.
Yeah, that's so important. So important. And I'm studying Pro Tools through Wayne in his course. So to have the artist platform roll out is so dope because it's definitely like it makes it easy. Like I like to say, if Lydia Caesar can do it, you can do it, because I'm not a super tech savvy person, and a lot of artists aren't. We're on the creative side. Yeah. So Pro Tools artists really makes it palatable for the artist to be able to just jump in there and knock the work out. A lot of times you want to get it done by yourself. This gives you that DIY component that we've all been looking for.
And you also want to be able to collaborate with professionals too. So if you record something at home, using your home setup, you can send it off to me
to
I can take it to the next level.
Exactly.
And so by using Pro Tools and having it translate through the different versions, I think it's super dope.
Genius.
I agree. So guys, should we maybe start with the session?
Yeah.
And talk a little bit about the process and how the idea came. And Lydia, I'm guessing you kind of wrote it from the start to kind of then it got built from there.
So I came in with an idea already, and Wayne also helped. It was a very collaborative effort with everything from the production to the lyrics and all that. I came in with the melody and idea, and then we just kind of built it out from there.
Yeah. This session kind of started off, usually when we start creating, we will and by the way, this is a look at the actual demo session. So if anybody wants to refer back to this video later, or if you want to follow along now, if you go to your documents folder, go to Pro Tools, you should be able to see a folder that says demo sessions, and you can open this exact session up. Everything in here is stock Pro Tools plugins, stock sounds that you're going to have as well. Well, with the addition of a few samples that we imported in, but you will have everything available to you right here. All right.
Yeah. And I thought that was awesome. Like,
yeah,
we wanted the track to feel like light, fun, airy, but of course we wanted the drums to still hit hard, because who doesn't want the drums to hit hard? And every sound that we needed was right built in.
Yeah. So speaking of the drums hitting hard, one of the first things that we wanted to start with, normally we'll start with our drum, but because you had the melody, so we started off coming up with a drum groove, and we loaded up the Groove Cell plugin, which is Pro Tools' new sampler. It's super easy to use, and the dope thing is that it comes with preset sounds. Now, I have to tell y'all that the Wavy Wayne kit might be my favorite.
You know, as
my favorite. Definitely my favorite.
But there are like hundreds of other sounds that you could use with all of these different patches that you can load up. So you can load up one of those and easily start to map these out. All right. And so this was the foundation. Using Groove Cell Sampler was the foundation of getting that kind of drum rhythm going for the session.
Yeah. So we basically built it all out from scratch, using all the plugins and sounds within Pro Tools.
Also, shout out to the Noisy Neighbors. The Noisy Neighbors are my production team.
Yeah,
my friends.
They're amazing.
They help out a lot when it comes to these beats. So they came over with some dope ideas. And again, it was their first time using Groove Cell, because we were kind of working behind the scenes with this under wraps. So everybody, it's intuitive. If you ever used the sampler before, or if you haven't, you can easily kind of open this Groove Cell up and say, okay, I click on a pad, or I hit my MIDI controller, and I know what to do. And you can easily swap these sounds out, very easy, and also customize them. So we were able to get this going pretty nicely.
Yeah, we came up with the track, that we loved, which was the bed, the foundation. And then we started writing. And a way that I love to write, especially when we're doing an experience like this, where it's all hands on and we're all creative together, I like to bring the mic out of the booth just to get a top line down, almost like a scratch. So as we're writing, I'm able to just, if something comes, I'm able to just lay it down and build on top of that. So that's how we started writing this record. I just almost line by line, as the lines came about, I'm in the same room with Wayne and the engineers, and and the producers, and we're just recording to get the whole entire scratch vocal down from the top to the bottom of the track.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and sometimes we even use the playlisting feature to comp some things. So in this session, we kind of kept it simple, but I love how Pro Tools allows you that flexibility to where, here's a lead vocal track. I'm going to play a little sample of it just so we can hear kind of where we're at.
Love should take your breath away. With you, I get lost for days. I can't find the words to say. But you're the one I want to hold. You're my shelter from the cold. I feel it inside. I can take on the world. I'm so confident.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, all of this processing is definitely, it sounds so good. Using that Potec, all of these processors are straight stock plugins, which blows my mind to think about, that you get so much, so many tools, right out, like professional grade tools. These ain't like, these no slack. No,
definitely. They don't sound cheesy or chintzy, or, you hear some beats and you're like, okay, these were some cheap beats.
Yeah.
This is not that. You hear it, it sounds like radio ready. And as a creator who creates on that level, I shot songs for films and TV and commercials. It has to be radio ready. It has to be like what everyone is listening to. And that's exactly what this record is. And then also there's some things that I love when I'm in the booth, some things that are absolutely necessary. Like what? First of all, I need to be able to punch really quickly.
Okay.
So
Pro Tools has a mode for that. We got quick punch mode, right? So if you go up to the options menu, again, you can enable quick punch. That'll let you easily, and what punching is let's say Lydia wanted to replace just this one little word here. well, I could start recording, keep everything before that, literally drop in very easily, record over that, and keep everything else.
Yeah.
Like Quick Punch is so easy for that.
Right. Because sometimes a take is nearly perfect.
Yeah.
And you just need to catch the end of it.
Yeah.
You know, so as a singer, that's really important to me, to be able to just like jump in and fix something. It's also important for me to be able to like listen to a section over and over easily, so I can come up with harmonies and stacks and different ideas that we did some harmonies and stacks in this session as well.
That sound like you talking about loop record. Yeah.
Right.
That's super useful. I mean, loop playback, not necessarily loop record, but definitely loop playback while we are like writing. Maybe we'll loop the hook or something, right? All you need to do is make a selection of whatever part that you want to loop. And as long as it's at least half a second,
then it will keep going over and over. And these are things that are like really, really like essential as an artist. And then also like just the ability to be able to record immediately. So I mean, that really comes from a fast engineer, as Wayne would say, an editing ninja, right?
Yeah, you gotta be.
So like if something comes to me, you never know, you may lose it if it's not recorded quickly. And also playlisting is dope too, because you don't, like, let's say you catch something that's great, but your engineer is not recording it.
Yeah.
You know,
Woo.
you're fired, right? So you may have a moment. So playlisting allows you to just keep it on record. Just record everything.
So I just want to show the playlisting feature a little bit. So playlisting basically allows you to have multiple takes or multiple different versions of a performance on that same track without having to make so many new tracks. So as an artist that's recorded, this is going to give y'all so much flexibility as you're creating, to not worry about getting things perfect the first time, or even being married to what it is that you do, right? So let's say I wanted to experiment. In this case, I could duplicate this playlist and experiment with an edit. I would go over to the nameplate, hit the little drop down arrow here, and I could do a new playlist and that would give me a new one. But in this case, I'm gonna duplicate, right? Because let's say maybe I want to experiment with a different arrangement, right? So I'll just kind of put that on there. And if I want to move this part here and move this section here, it's very easy to do that. And then Lydia comes back in the studio, say, yo, you just ruined my song. What was that? I'll go back to the playlist drop down by clicking right next to the nameplate, and then just go back to the original way it was, and nobody's
offended today. Yeah.
And for songwriting, that's just so good, right?
It is.
You have so many ideas. I can only imagine how many ideas you can come up with, and just keep flicking through them and find the one that you actually want to go for.
It is the best feature, you know, and considering Pro Tools Artist comes with 32 tracks, which, to be honest, is more than enough. A lot of times as a like a singer songwriter, many times you're dealing with a track that maybe a producer has already sent you, so it's not even fully tracked out. So you have so much wiggle room to create a powerful top line in an easy and palatable way. Like, you know, I have to stress that, because Pro Tools could seem very intimidating, you know, at times, but the artist setup really makes it something that anybody can dive into, learn quickly, and get to work right away. Because that's what we want to do. We want to work right away.
And I feel like that kind of intimidation is like a brand that Pro Tools gained, but it's kind of a thing of a past now. With the Pro Tools artists, it's a lot more inviting. It's a lot more open, especially for producers, for anybody that's like making beats out there. Pro Tools, man, look, let me just show y'all. So we already showed y'all the Groove Cell, right? They have so many other tools that straight out the box you get. I'm gonna open up this folder for my keys, and just to demonstrate, we have a Mini Grand. This Mini Grand emulation sounds incredible. I use this one all the time. Expand though, this is absolutely my favorite virtual instrument. It's been in Pro Tools for years, but a lot of people sleep on this. It's a modular synthesizer, and you can have multiple different parts on it. So I can add 1, 2, 3, 4 different parts, create a brand new sound that nobody's ever heard before. Nice. And even do some crazy stuff with the Midi. So and look how many sounds are in this thing. Like, this is straight out of the box. I didn't have to buy any additional sound packs. This is with that one low price that you get for the artist,
$99 for the whole year.
That's crazy.
That's absolutely crazy. And you know, it's like, just to encourage the new artists, all of these detailed things, like, you can learn as you're going, right? Out the box. If you want to just get started with recording your vocals, that's going to be super easy for you, which is what that's all we really want at first.
Yeah.
Like we're so excited when we
get.
get, oh my God, I recorded my voice and it actually sounds great. And then over time you can learn all the ins and outs and more, get more detailed.
Yeah.
But the artist package definitely allows you to get started right away.
Oh yeah. And there's a bunch of get starting guides too that are included when you first, kind of launch your Pro Tools. I love that section that's included now. And, there's just more resources to learn about Pro Tools than any other DAW that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Sorry,
no, I was going to say there's so much, right? Exactly, Wayne. And we have awesome people like yourself creating stuff. We're creating stuff. It's just there's so much stuff out there now that we could kind of, reference back to, learn from. I mean, when I was at uni, I wish there was stuff on how to make music, because I'd be a Billboard charting artist, but I didn't know that didn't happen. So all good. Wait, I was going to ask you a few questions. I could kind of just chime in. So we had a question coming from YouTube, which is by Justin Array. Well, it's not actually a question. I just want to say, great job on the Wavy Wayne samples in Groove Cell.
Oh, thank you.
Can we just maybe show Groove Cell, maybe show your awesome, hey man.
Okay. All right. So inside of Groove Cell, if you haven't checked this out yet, there is a Wavy Wayne kit. So I have customized some of my favorite sounds, my favorite 808s and snare sounds, and some cool samples that you just can't get anywhere else. So man, I know some of y'all, if you ever watch my YouTube channel, you've always wanted to use this in your record. So you have this sample now, royalty free. All you gotta do is shout me out. All right.
Hey man. Hey.
All right, that's the hey man.
Hey man.
Love it.
Come on, man.
Woo!
I think that's my favorite.
Hey man.
And of course, you could pitch it as well, right? You could start manipulating the sound and do cool stuff with it.
Let's see if I pitch me up.
Hey, Alvin and the Chipmunks version.
All right. I love this feature also inside of Groove Cell, where I like that one.
Yeah.
Where you can route these outputs, right? So where you can click on this output selector, and this is what we've done in this session, to where we wanted to do some additional processing on the kicks and the snares that are in this mix. So we can route the output of the kick. So I click on that pad and how this one is going to output to. And this is definitely getting a little bit advanced, but y'all tap in with me. I'm gonna make sure we get all of this going. So this kick track is getting that same input, which allows me to do individual processing. Now, most samplers, honestly, I've never even seen a sampler that allow you this much flexibility,
right?
To where you can still route individual outputs of each one of your samples and then have that processing capability for each separate sample. So you can feel comfortable using the Groove Cell, creating inside the Groove Cell, and know that you still have complete control over every single sound when it comes down to mix.
That's hot. That's hot.
Yeah. So Groove Cell, I'm happy about this addition. And I
love it. So just on the actual session that you guys provided and you worked on, just going back a little bit, but yeah, no, I love the way that we all kind of planned it and everything, how everything happened, and it all happened on Pro Tools. But from the day that I called you, Wayne, as well, right, and told you, we want to work on this, and then Lydia started laying down the idea and stuff. I just the vocals themselves, did you guys kind of how did you tune them? So someone asked on, I think it was on YouTube, so did you tune the vocals with Melodyne, or was it not tuned?
Okay, I used a little bit of Melodyne on those vocals slightly. Lydia is a great singer. She don't never want me to do too much process.
Yeah, I mean, I want, I always, as a vocalist,
I did use some Melodyne and printed it onto the vocals on there. But that Melodyne was included with my Pro Tools subscription, so it was nice and neat.
That's fire. And I think, well, what I was going to say is that as a singer who prides herself in really singing, I always want to sound as natural as possible. But I also do like those, the vocals to be tuned up a little bit, because that is like standard, right? Yeah. So you do a great job using the tools that are provided within Pro Tools to get the vocals sounding as natural as possible, but they still sound like completely flawless.
Yes.
Which is amazing.
Lydia will let me know if there's anything pitchy at all.
Yes, or
that is a 2 cents sharp.
Right, exactly. Or if it's too toony, I'm like, no, roll up some of that. There's that balance that I like, that Pro Tools makes it really easy to find.
Yeah, but I'm super big on do it over, right? So that's why the playlisting feature is good for us, because I rarely record with any processing, like any pitch correction on. Like, I want to get the best raw performance from Lydia when we working together, and I know that she's capable of it. So you know, we do it over. We do it over. New
Right.
playlist, new playlist, new
Yeah.
playlist, new playlist, until it's never that many.
No, but
until it's right.
I mean, and sometimes it's me, like, I want to take, I need to take it again.
Yeah.
You know, recording is the one time you have to make it perfect.
Mhm.
So you might as well invest the time in getting it right. There's so many tools to help you get it right in Pro Tools. So you might as well get it absolutely perfect. You can mess up on stage if you want to.
I love that. And Lydia, as an artist, I mean, I know you said you're doing the course now on Wayne's course, right? How are you finding it as kind of recording and getting into the zone of actually just recording yourself and playlisting and stuff like that? Obviously, you're an artist, right? And obviously, did you have a lot of background of production or engineering before? Or is it kind of really brand new to you?
Completely brand new. I've always worked with engineers. And then when I got with Wayne like over 10 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely made it even worse for me, where I was like, I don't have to learn how to do anything because I have like the greatest engineer.
Wayne, exactly.
Yeah, but I've more recently, I have been, invited onto more songwriting projects and more projects that need my attention like right away. And I don't want to have to rely on, Wayne and his time and his schedule. So the course has been great, learning actually like the ins and outs of Pro Tools. A lot of times people start from like recording on their own and then they take the course. So coming in from a place of education has been great. And I mean, it's been a learning experience and process. And like I say, if I can do it, you can do it. Recording yourself is very like freeing. I love the playlisting feature. Yeah. I love that with the new artists, you can like customize shortcuts to make things very fast, make you be able to work faster and easier. Next up is mixing. I have a little bit of ways to go on that. That's next. But for now, I'm definitely enjoying learning how to record myself. Pro Tools has been the head of the industry for so long. And with this new rollout, I feel like you guys have just solidified your position for the next generation, because it's so much easier now than I can imagine it was before, Yeah. So.
Awesome. Guys, thank you so much for showing that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to bring on a bit of a panel, have a bit more of a discussion. So let's bring on Tony and Teezio.
Okay.
Yo.
Hey, Teezio. Hey, Tony. I'm going to give you guys a bit of an intro. So Teezio, if you don't know, you guys probably do already know, but Teezio is an awesome engineer mixer. He's worked with Jack Harlow, Polo G, Chris Brown, Little Nas X, so many names, multiple number ones, including First Class, Jack Harlow. Teezio, did I miss anything out there?
No, you're good. Thank you for the intro.
Good. No, awesome, man. Thank you for being here today on the live stream today. As we were talking about Pro Tools artists, I'd love to get the conversation going today as well. So I'm going to also introduce Tony, Latin Grammy winning 2 times. Awesome Michael Jackson tribute, which is amazing. Hey, Tony, how you doing?
What's up? How's everybody?
I remember I was going to say Samurai, Tony Succar, sorry.
Samurai, yeah. Pro Tools Samurai.
How are you doing today, Tony? Good?
Doing great. It's great to be with you.
Thank you for joining us. So Wayne, Teezio, and Tony, we're just going to get into a bit of a discussion, talk about Pro Tools, and kind of just have a really open discussion with each other, So we have Lydia, who's an artist, Tony, producer, also recording engineer as well, Teezio, mixer, arranger as well. And then Wayne, educator, engineer, mixer, tracking, so much talent in this live stream. So let's set it up. So Teezio, so how important kind of has Pro Tools been to you kind of in your journey?
Pro Tools has honestly been everything. There's been times where I've had to jump on other DAWs just for the sake of the situation, the artist that I'm working with, the team that I'm working with, to get files actually back over to Pro Tools. So all roads lead back to Pro Tools at some point. I mean, no matter what you produce in, no matter what you work in, when it gets to me, it's always in Pro Tools. And the recording process the same. I mean, I've never walked into any commercial recording studio and seen anything other than Pro Tools in there. You know what I mean? So it's kind of everything. No matter what you say, I mean, you can't really. I mean, it's all roads lead back to Pro Tools, right?
Wayne, I see a big smile on your face there.
I think that's a fact, because I say that to people all the time. You know, I've never walked in and seen. I ain't gonna throw you out under the bus today. But I've never seen any other dog like Teezio said. It's definitely the one to go to. You know, and you can create stuff in other places, right? But Pro Tools makes it. It's the home. It is going to be the final destination for the professional finished product. You're going to end up in Pro Tools.
And now, of course, as we've got Pro Tools artists, it makes it 10 times easier because you can literally be an artist, right? Open up the laptop, record, pass it on to the engineer, and then kind of start that process, right? And Pro Tools artists allows you to begin and start creating in Pro Tools. So Tony, I just want to start a little bit on your live recording stuff. Maybe if you can give a little introduction to live recording, you know, as a percussionist as well. And how you record into Pro Tools and how vital Pro Tools is for your workflow.
Yeah, well, for me, since I record so many acoustic instruments, I just you know, I've worked with a lot of DAWs out there, you know, for sure. But my process is very using a lot of channels. So my sessions are pretty massive. A standard session of mine will, you know, have like at least 150 tracks and stuff. It gets pretty massive because of all the horns, like brass and percussion and drums and guitars and strings. So I love the way Pro Tools functions in a visual way, where I feel like I have control over everything so quickly, you know. Just the reliability as well. But my process, man, it always starts with rhythm section, and then I just build my way up. You know, I build my way up. I also arrange now in Pro Tools. I used to not arrange before in Pro Tools, so I used to do arrangements in different programs. Sometimes I would just do it in my notation program, and then I would just import the Midi into Pro Tools, and then I would start recording that way. But now I just program everything because Midi has come a long way in Pro Tools. I think it's been upping its game in that for sure. Yeah, I think for a long time Pro Tools was more known for its audio capabilities, audio editing, audio mixing. It was just, I mean, it's still the GOAT in that, right? But in terms of the way software synths work, instrumental tracks, and you know, the ability to do everything with Midi now, it's perfect because now I don't have to leave Pro Tools for anything in terms of my workflow. So it just makes it so easy now. And you know, I would hate to always, you know, one of the most frustrating things for any producer out there, I think, is having to move stuff from different programs, right? That's one of the most time consuming and where you can find the most glitches or just human mistake, human error. So now that you could just start Pro Tools and the Pro Tools, I mean, that's it, you know. It's so much better.
And what specific features or kind of like MIDI features do you love that has obviously kind of got you to go from like a notation platform to now just creating in Pro Tools?
Well, for me, the ability, like just a general MIDI translation from recording MIDI. MIDI is such an old technology that I always found it to be very glitchy, you know, especially when it comes to if you're not quantizing MIDI, right? Because most of the time people quantize MIDI because of popular music and stuff, but in the genres that I'm in, which is more like Latin tropical or Latin jazz, you don't want to really quantize much. And but you also have like the ability to quantize either very little or a lot or swing, you know. So one of the main things that I like is the transpose window and like just hitting option 0 on your Mac keyboard and then having everything just there, velocity, you know, being able to go ahead and change individually what you the MIDI keyboard, for example, the sustain pedals and stuff like that. One of the I think the main things that I found to be an upgrade is that I always had trouble with the MIDI pedal, with the keyboard pedal, recording and punching in, punching out. So now I think, Pro Tools has thought of like everything in terms of just making everything work better. So I find it less glitchy, and again, buffer was always a strange thing for me too. I mean, we've all been there where it's just like, why is this like latency? Where's it coming from? But every time I upgrade Pro Tools, I feel like I find less issues. There's always going to be issues coming up with every DAW. It's just the way it is, right? But I find like I don't know, man, that the programmers have done such a great job really focusing on making everything less glitchy, man. So I just find myself working more and less troubleshooting more and more every time.
Love that. Awesome. Thank you, Tony. I'm going to open up a bit of a question to the engineers here now as well. So kind of what specific stock plugins do you guys kind of love? I know a lot of people use lo-fi on 808s and stuff, but is there anything specifically? I see Wayne nodding there as well. Teezio, maybe we'll start with you. What is kind of your favorite stock plugin and what do you kind of love using when it comes to the stock plugins?
I definitely love using the lo-fi on my bass for sure. That's an automatic. I'm just looking through here to see if there's anything crazy. SansAmp I'll use a lot when I'm trying to do a certain type of saturation. I play with stuff. I might try one plugin and I'll try SansAmp, and that kind of works. Another one is the Deverb. A lot of times I'm doing like a reverse reverb and I might use the Deverb to do it. I kind of learned to do the reverse reverb more of an old school way, where you'd take the vocal, you'd chop it down, and then you'd reverse it, and then you'd highlight, you'd create the reverb, and then you'd re-reverse that reverb and then tuck it in. That's kind of how I learned it, and that's how I do it. And a lot of times Deverb is just that quick go-to. And then on top of that, I'll put EQs and delays and stuff like that, and some imaging and stuff like that to make it sound wider. But yeah, so Deverb and lo-fi are probably the most that I use out of the Pro Tools stuff, the Avid stuff.
Awesome. And Wayne?
Yeah, so I definitely use lo-fi. I'm always using Deverb. Like, honestly, I think Deverb is a great reverb plugin. I always put my extra sauce on it, but like kind of like 50% of the time when I'm putting a reverb on a mix, my secret sauce is going to be Deverb with a little sauce on it after that. But I definitely use Deverb in the mixes. The BF76 is a great 1176 style plugin, so I think that's super clutch and clean. The regular Don 3 compressor limiter is always, it's a staple that I've been using for 10 years plus, and I can't find any reason to stop using that one. But let's see what else kind of creative stuff. Maxim is always good too as a limiter.
Oh yeah.
And the Impact. I've recently been playing around with the Impact bus compressor in Pro Tools, and that has been giving me I've been pleasantly surprised with that too. So I love that they're, besides the Expand 2 that I talked about earlier, like the virtual instrument, I think that's dope to be a stock plug-in too. But yeah, I think Impact is probably the one that I'm like the newest one on my radar that I'm like most excited about.
Yeah, I think Expand like is so powerful. Again, as you were showing, like you create your own sounds, save them as patches, and then go from there. But I've done so much research before, and I've seen like insane tracks that I would never think, but they've been created on Expand, and the sound, and it's just like wow, that's so unique to that person or that producer, which is awesome. Just wanted to touch on your guys' process of actually recording, creating, and mixing stuff as well. Now, templates. How important are templates in Pro Tools? Maybe, Teezio, we can start with you. When you're working with someone like, big as Jack Harlow and then Chris Brown, Lil Nas X, would you kind of have the same template that you'd start with for all of them? Or would you have one specifically for each artist, or no template?
Yeah, so when I'm recording, we can start there. So when I'm recording, and I don't record Nas or Jack, I only record Chris Brown. But when I'm recording Chris, and to be honest, when I'm recording anyone, the template is always the same, because for me, the template is not necessarily like, oh, if I use this template, it's gonna sound dope. For me, it's creating all of the routing and organization that I need for when Chris is in the booth and the pressure is at an all-time high. that everything is moving smoothly. I have my record track, I have my verse tracks ready, I have my pre-tracks ready, everything is ready. There's a light EQ, a light compressor, reverb, delay, blah, blah, blah. But the template for me is not necessarily so much the sound, also at the level sort of that we work at. When the session is done, this song doesn't need to sound mixed or anything. It just needs to be like, is it listenable, just so that we can vibe with it. Obviously, once I leave, we mix the record. You know what I mean? It's not, especially with CB. I mean, some of the newer artists, when they leave the studio, they want that shit to sound mixed. But with like CB and a lot of these artists, they really don't care, because they already know through their experience that the recording, as long as the recording is recorded well, what they're listening to and vibing with, that's not going to be the final product. And it's eventually going to be mixed, and it'll sound like all the other records they have, right? As far as the mixing, I use the exact same template for everyone. Again, the mixing is just a routing for everything, to route to my summing mixer, from the summing mixer back, then to my DW Fern EQ, then back, then print into the mat. All that stuff has to be pre-done, because that's a 20-30 minute process. If every time I create a mix, I'm creating that on the spot. I'm creating the verse auxes, the lead auxes, whatever it is, the reverbs, the delays, the routing to go out of Pro Tools back in. That's a process, and I can do it, but why do it over and over and waste all that time, right? Especially with the amount of records that I have to mix. It's like I may have to mix 3 or 4 songs in a day, and I don't have time, to set up the same exact template over and over. But it's definitely always the same template. What I'm doing is different, is the mix, right? What I'm creating. And I'm adding things as I go. I may need this on one session and that on another session. You know what I mean? So the templates are always the same. For the recording, the only thing I say could change is sometimes I'll work with a rapper who doesn't want as much reverb as I have on Chris when he's recording. And that's as easy as me just pulling down the reverb send, or just the reverb bus down and the delay bus. A lot of artists, especially rappers, they don't want to hear quarter note delay flying with reverb as much as someone like Chris would, where he's singing. You know what I mean? So it's really, and that I make that easy for myself. Oh, you don't want any delay? I could just mute the delay bus and that's it. It's done. You know what I mean? So the template for me is about creating the smoothest path and the easiest path to the end goal, right?
Yeah. Yo, I feel the same way as Teezio, to where it's really about the setup, right? I think of Pro Tools a lot of times it's a blank template, it's a blank canvas. And by having a template, it kind of gives me the feeling of like I'm back working in an analog studio. When I'm in the studio, I don't have to load up reverbs, right? They're a lot of times already hard patched to the console, or the EQs on that actual console, on the channel strip. The compressor is already there. So having a template that just puts the tools in place so that you don't have to reach for them when you need them is super dope. So I think that's great for professionals to have just a template that has your go-tos ready to go.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to artists, I think that templates can offer a whole nother side of a whole nother flavor, to where you could, as artists, you don't want to have to shape and scope the sounds.
Yes.
And then you want to have some reverb or auto tune or EQ or some special effects happening, so you can get in your vibe while you're recording.
Yeah,
so,
I was going to say that too.
So I think that for artists, it could be super useful to just be able to immediately kind of get that vibe going by having some type of sound already when you hit record.
And it's encouraging too, because without it, it can be very discouraging. Like the learning process, it takes time, right? A lot of us, we're in that we want to be good right away generation. And that's not the best quality to have, but it is what it is. This is how people think and feel. So a template kind of gives you that sound that you're looking for right away, but it also allows you to learn like backwards.
Yes.
Because you can take a look at the settings and learn what each of them are, doing in relation to your session. So I encourage, if you're just starting out, highly to download a template, and you can download one at wavywayne.com.
Oh, that's a fact. No,
and also Pro Tools Artist comes with templates, built into the DAW. So that's also amazing as well.
Yeah. And I love that fact though, that you said like you can learn though, because
backwards,
if you want to learn, like a professionally made template will kind of teach you professional workflow. It'll teach you why you can start to dive into, even do this with the presets. So like the stock plugins and Pro Tools, you can load up some EQ preset or some reverb preset and start to learn like what was changed about this
Right.
long haul versus this short haul, like what
Yes.
changed within the actual parameters of the plugin. And now you can start to use that information to make your own decisions and maybe not reach for a template or maybe not
Every
reach
time,
for a
right.
preset,
Yeah.
but you use it as a learning tool or a stepping stone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was awesome, guys. And Tony, so when you're kind of obviously big sessions, small sessions as well, do you kind of have templates ready, or do you start from scratch?
You know, to be honest with you, I do have just like a simple template, like for a vocal chain when I have to record vocals and stuff. But most of the time, since I don't mix, I'm not a mixing engineer. I just produce, and I'm more of a tracking engineer. I just, I literally do it from scratch every time because there's not much to do, right? You just, only if you're doing a vocal and you want to get like the artist in that vibe, right? But usually an instrumentalist will want to hear, themselves straight out how they want to hear. And that's an important thing of an engineer, just a tracking engineer in general. It's like you want to capture the sound of the instrument the way it is and the way the musician intends themselves and hears themselves acoustically. So the less, like less is more in that sense. And I just usually do it that way. Now, if it's gonna be like a giant session where we have an entire orchestra playing at the same time, like if for example I produced a couple PBS specials and stuff like that, that's a whole different monster. You want to like pre-plan like to the maximum potential and come in there with like backups of backups and stuff. That's very nerve-wracking. And Pro Tools is been the only software we trust in that setting. And we usually have like a recording truck, and we'll have 2 consoles running at the same time, and redundant system and the whole nine. But we've never had to run the second console and depend on it. It's always ran and never stopped. And yeah, that's the only time. But usually most of my recordings I do out of my own studio, and again, it's like I'll record just a small section at a time, mainly like maximum 16 channels at once.
Nice. And I have a question which I'm going to put to all you guys as well, but I'm going to start with Tony. How do you know when your production or your music is kind of finished? As a producer, how do you know, wow, I'm done with this, right, send it on to the engineer or the mixer? And obviously I'll ask the question throughout as well, but how do you know that you're kind of done with something? I know it's a hard question there, but do you have a certain bit where you got like a checklist, or do you kind of go, wow, I've just danced to this, it's done? Or is there another way that you kind of say it's done?
Yeah, it's never really done, only when it comes on Spotify, and then I don't want to listen to it anymore. It's like I'm tired. Like I literally, every time a song comes out and people feel like it's new and they're like, oh my God, you did this great job, like I will never listen to the song ever again. Like I don't want to listen to it. I just and it's funny because there's so many different phases of being done, right? I mean, it's just from the beginning to the arrangement, and then to the mixing engineer. Like every mixing engineer hates me because like the amount of notes that I'm just so picky, and at a certain point I it's more like a psychological thing where I kind of feel, I put myself in their shoes and I'm like, do I really want to ruin their life so much? And it's like, so then I'm just like, you know what? I let go. And I just like, the deadline is coming, and it's hard. It's really difficult to know that moment, because for us, I think we're always paying attention to so many details that there's just so many details that will never be to the point where you're like satisfied, because always something's going to come up. Your ear just works that way. And then your ear starts playing mind tricks on you too, because you're so like fatigued that you don't even know. So it's always good to understand what the objective is with the record, and moving on to the next thing, because music these days it's consumed so quickly that it's just so difficult that people are going to really understand what those little small little details are in every little song that they listen to. So I'm starting to understand more of the marketing game, and what that means, and to start seeing the effects of music and what it actually truly translates to the general public, because we have to make music for the general public. We don't make music for other engineers and for other musicians. I mean, yeah, we are part of the academy and we always want to like push forward and impress our colleagues and push the bar for all of us, right? Because it keeps challenging us. However, we have to put it on a balance, so everything is a balance. And yeah, to answer your question, it's such a difficult thing because I always find myself in a tug of war with myself, and it's just the challenge for me personally to always just say, release it already, type of thing.
Yeah, I can relate to that completely.
Yeah.
I a lot of times I try to just go on how I feel. How does it make me feel? Do I feel warm and fuzzy? If when I'm listening to it, do I feel like something jumps out at me that's awkward? If that's the case, then it needs fixing. But if it, Wayne says if it feels good, it is good. And I agree with that. I mean, there's sometimes I'll listen to songs and be like, oh my gosh, I should have said this word instead of that word. That's natural, I think, as an artist. But, I like what Tony said, that you have to just let things go.
Yeah.
You have to it's like a child. You raise it. Once it gets to a certain stage, you got to just let it go into the world to do what it's going to do, so
like an argument. Like you always think of a good comeback after
later
the argument is done. You're like, dang,
I should have said, I knew I should have said that. Right. Yeah, exactly.
But a lot of times I know the mix is done whenever Lydia tell me it's done. If I'm working on her mix.
Yes.
But she also puts things into perspective for me, and listening to, the client or the artist can help you to realize the finalization of a product a lot faster, especially because if I'm working on your project, I want you to make sure that it feels right. And like now I can nitpick and tweak all day, but a lot of times Lydia will listen to the rough and be like, yo, I don't know what you need to do to this, like what is done. And so like I want to kind of try to make sure I don't go too crazy on mixing and take that essence away, because it's happened before to where she's like, I don't know, but the rough mix was fine. We could have put that out. And and I spent 12 hours working on something and then she hates it.
Yeah, because artists fall in love with, I call it demoitis. Yeah. If the mix is good, if the rough mix is good, as an artist, there's so many elements that you fall in love with. So it's usually not too far off. Right. From that place to get it to where the artist will be happy.
Demoitis, that's a new one. I'm definitely keeping that. So Teezio, how about yourself? How do you know when something's done? Obviously, there's a lot of deadlines, as we were saying as well, but how do you know when something is done? Teezio, you're going to send it off and that's it. Goodbye to that.
So when it's really done is when the approvals come in from the label. That's when it's really done. But I think for me, like I've tried to adopt a non-overthinking type of way of mixing where I don't feel like I need to change every little thing and show like, oh, this is mixed now. Like it's more about, for me, I follow the demo, especially when I'm working with some of these higher caliber artists that have producers that are taking the vocals after their mix and they're doing their quote unquote rough mix and adding production and taking things away and stuff like that. By the time I get it, the way that demo sounds is in the lane of how everyone wants it to sound, right? So when I'm approaching the mix, I'm not necessarily jumping in without a roadmap, because the roadmap is there, right? The demo is there. And B, I'm very aware of demoitis, as you guys were saying. Every artist has it. A lot of times it's difficult to try to finish a mix because their demoitis is like, nah, but the rough, this. So I always try to figure out what's going on with the rough for them to then get it to that place. For me, when I think it's done is when I've reached past the rough. So I think it sounds way better than the rough. It's louder, clearer, brighter, punchier, whatever it may be, better than the rough. Once it's gotten to that point, I feel like, okay, I'm almost there. And then I'm just doing these long brush strokes where I'm playing from the top and I'm fixing these last things that are left. And then once I'm like, okay, the mix is pretty much good. Any more would be overthinking. Any more would just be doing too much. Like a lot of times you're trying to nitpick at every single frequency to the point where sometimes you just kill the vocal, right? You've notched so many times and you've taken out so much bad stuff that nothing's left. It sounds totally different than what they had given you. And that's kind of one of those things that I let go of a long time ago, is trying to overdo things. I'm a very I don't overthink about anything. If I feel it's done, I'm not going to force it or over push it. Once I hear it in the car and nothing sticks out to me, that's when I send it off to the client. And from there, I'm not done because the client's going to hear it every now and then. I get the, oh, it's perfect. I don't want to make any changes, which is fun. Right. But a lot of times there's changes and it's not always a mix change. It might be the producer saying, hey, there's a hi-hat that's not supposed to be there. Okay, cool. So I make the change. I send it to him. And then the other guy hears it and he's like, hey, there was this delay that they recorded when they first did the demo that's not in the song anymore and it's not in your demo. Can we get that delay? Here's the original demo. So now I'm going back and I'm matching the song for the original. So a lot of these notes aren't necessarily mixed notes all the time. They're just issues that need to be fixed. It's a missing vocal. It's a vocal that's not supposed to be there. The other day I sent off a mix and they're like, we love the mix, but there's these two harmonies that aren't supposed to be there. Can you mute them? You know what I mean? So a lot of times, to answer your question, when is the mix done? Who knows, right? When it comes out, I guess.
Right.
Exactly.
Because it's all subjective, right? Everything is subjective. I mean, like I could do what I think is a perfect mix, and then someone else can be like, "That's ass." You know what I mean? It's all subjective.
Yeah.
So but that's why it's tricky sometimes with mixing or just with art in general. What one person thinks is perfect is not perfect to someone else. So it's all about who you're dealing with, right?
Exactly. I was just going to mention though, so it's just amazing to hear these kind of stories you guys are saying as well, but from different areas around the world as well, but also just mentioning different ways that Pro Tools has influenced you to kind of where you guys are in certain areas. You know, even I'm looking at you guys all have a brand each, which is amazing. You know, seeing Wayne on YouTube, Tony, and obviously Teezio as well. Just want to say I'm blown away today. So and Lydia, of course. So yeah, I want to just go back to the questions that were asked on YouTube, just really briefly. So we have a question from Sharp Cut. So it's what tracking hardware are each of the speakers using? So if we can maybe start with Lydia. I know you obviously you work with Wayne, but do you have kind of anything at home when Wayne's in the studio and you're kind of in your studio or home or whatever it may be, a little setup?
Huh?
What's your home studio setup like?
Well, what I think that's dope about Pro Tools artists is that you can really record with your native like you don't need an interface. You don't need an interface. You can just record straight out of your computer, which is great because you know it saves money and if you're just starting out, that's one of the most important things. So
I know a lot of times you track your kind of demos when you're doing writing at home, you'll track it right through the MacBook speaker.
Through the MacBook.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's her setup. She got Pro Tools and a MacBook.
Yeah.
And that's all you need these days. And Lydia, your vocals, of course, are the main point here. They sound obviously beautiful as they are. Very important to have what Wayne, how do we say it? Kind of has to be beautiful when it goes in, right? Has to sound great. So Lydia, that's amazing. I love it. I can't imagine. I can imagine open the laptop, pressing record, and just singing like that.
Yeah.
Capture the demo. And Wayne, now we've got to go with you. What tracking stuff do you have?
and what's the mic? The Rode NT1A mic.
Yeah,
I love that mic. It's a very, very affordable microphone, but it captures the essence of my voice like very nice and raw. So
yeah.
When it as on Mike's hardware side of things, that's
the only mic I'll trust her with.
Right. Otherwise, I'm scared.
But yeah, so after she tracks that demo, a lot of times she'll, kind of create these ideas, write these songs on her own, and we'll set up some time to come here and record it. I love using a tube condenser mic on her vocals. I love my Lawson L47 or maybe like a Stam SA47 on her vocals, and then after that I'll use 1073 preamp, and I'll come out of there and go into Distressor and into Pro Tools, and that is a lot of times my chain. Yeah, that's
nice. So yeah, I mean, you can already tell, with Pro Tools, you can either, again, said it so many times, open up the laptop, or you can have like complex things as well. And that's the beautiful thing about Pro Tools. There's so many different things you could do on there. Teezio, maybe we can go to you, man. Your trackers. I know you said you track Chris Brown, so but yeah, we'd love to know kind of what you use for tracking.
Yeah, so we use a 251 mic, the Telefunken, and then 1073 preamp, CL1B, and then directly into Pro Tools. There's no magic or gimmicks with CB. The way he sounds, what you hear is the same thing except some EQ and reverb. I mean, that's really how he sounds. So there's no gimmicks.
Wow. And when you kind of travel and go to kind of artists who are more newer, they have their own studio, or you're working in another studio, would you check beforehand to make sure what equipment they have, or software, of course, as well? But would you check there before, or would you take your stuff with you?
Well, normally, okay, so I don't really record anyone else. I only record for CB. But when we do travel, I bring the exact setup. So I'll bring my laptop with Pro Tools, which is no different than having any computer, right? The Pro Tools is the same. And then I'll bring the Telefunken, I'll bring the 1073 and the CL1B, and we'll just travel. I mean, we spent 30 days in Tulum not last year, the year before, and we recorded like 15 songs out there. And we had the exact same chain that he uses always. I think with an artist like him of his caliber, you can't record on an SM57 one day because that's all they have, and then a random mic over here, because it's going to mess with the consistency of his voice, right? Especially at the level he's at, he has to sound the same on every record as far as like who he is. So when you hear it, you say, oh, that's Chris Brown. You know what I mean? So when you get to that sort of level, like it doesn't matter where we go, I have to lug the CL1B and everything with me in the Telefunken, and then hope nothing happens,
Love that. And then Tony, yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm running an HDX system in my studio, in terms of interface, and I have for vocals, I have all sorts of mics. You have more standard one is a Neumann U87, and then I run it through a 1073 as well, and LA2A for slight compression. That's sort of my vocal chain. But there's an awesome mic from a company named Lewitt. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Lewitt. They created a mic, man. Do I have the box?
Yeah, that's what I'm using now. Is it a Swiss company? I think Swiss.
Austria.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Beautiful mic.
Their most recent mic. It's the 1040. It's like a super awesome mic, man. Like I'm really impressed because it's a mic that has the power supply is like a control system, so you can dial in how much of the tube you want to use or going to FET. You can also distort the signal if you want right off the bag as well, if you wanted to for a particular sound. It just has a whole mess of, like, it's just basically like a chameleon almost. Like you can really make it sound like many different mics into this just one system that they have. I just got it recently, so I've been using it little by little, because whenever I get new gear, I'm always like a little like nervous about it. I can't use it like on my best sessions, because you want to go to what it always works. But on my like creative sessions, just on my own and stuff, I've been using it and it's quite impressive. So I suggest people check that one out. The Lewitt microphones, man, they're amazing.
Was that a 1040? Did you say, Tony?
1040, yeah. It's it's brand new, man. It's crazy, bro.
Wow, nice. Cool. So I'm gonna go back to you, Tony. Start with you this time. We've got a question from YouTube from Concello, I think it is. What storage amount and RAM do you have on your machine?
Okay, so
do you have multiple machines you work on? Do you have like Studio A, Studio B, or is it kind of just one?
Yeah, so I have the Studio A. Well, I'll talk to Studio B, which is this room that I'm in right now. I have a MacBook Pro, 32 gigabyte RAM, 2.4 in the 8-core Intel like i9 processor, and my storage on my computer, if I'm not mistaken, is 2 terabytes. But I run everything off my external drives. I use this OWC SSD drives, Thunderbolt 3 drives. They're amazing. Like they run super fast and extremely reliable. So I recommend OWC for hard drives to run sessions off. Like never use like your internal memory, and then always back everything up to the maximum, like 2-3 backups of everything. And my Studio A has the old trash can Mac Pros, the 2013s. I wouldn't say they're the best computers out there, but it's worked and I haven't had to change it. I'm so afraid, like, because I don't want to put like an iMac because of I have it like stored elsewhere, like the computer's somewhere else, and then I run cables to it. So I would have to invest in the new cheese grater one, but I think they're discontinuing that model if I'm not mistaken because of so many glitches and terrible reviews. So I'm not really sure I think I'm just gonna be laptop based from now on. I don't know. I feel like that's where everything is headed, just to be able to be like, on the go. And like, for example, right now my whole setup here in my studio is running off an OWC Thunderbolt 3 dock. So I have like 3 external screens right now, plus my interface. Let me see if I can. I can't really because my camera's attached, but it's a pretty cool setup, man. It's just one cable, bro, and all my hard drives are connected, my interface, my 3 screens, everything. It's pretty dope.
That's amazing, Tony. Love that. Thank you so much. Maybe we can go with Teezio.
Yes,
Do you have a
sir.
laptop and a kind of desktop, or do you stick to just one or the other?
Yes, I have a desktop. I just got this Mac Pro, and it's 16 gigs of 16 core, 3.2 gigahertz, and then 48 gigs of RAM. I just got this. I was using a Hackintosh from Bryson before. And then I burn through computers. Like every year or two, I have to get a new computer just because it just starts getting burnt out. I don't leave it on all night, but it's on at least 12 hours a day or more working. So, and if I'm not sitting in the chair, my assistant is in the chair making stems, prepping sessions. So it's always in constant use.
Nice. Wow. That's every year. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That one will last you longer.
It lasts me longer because it was a lot more expensive than the Hackintosh line.
Wow. Maybe Lydia, we can go with you next. Do you have like maybe your laptop?
Yeah, I used Wayne got me last year for Christmas a new MacBook with the what is it? It has
M1.
like with the M1 chip. I think it's like 16
Ooh.
gigs. But it's super fast, especially for like the simple recording that I do. It's perfect. And then I also have like a 2 terabyte drive, two 2 terabyte drives that I like to use and just like especially like save my stuff on so that it doesn't use up all the space on my new computer because I'm trying to ride out with this computer for a while. I'm the type who would literally just save and store on the computer, and next thing you know, the computer don't work no more. And I'm trying to be better at that. So so I put everything onto my ScanDisk drives, but the Mac with the M1 chip runs so it's like a dream. It's perfect.
I wouldn't know because I don't have one of those yet. Well, I'm looking for it because I have a desktop in the studio here. I'm using a 2013 trash can as well, the Mac Pro trash can, and that one it's a beast. I think it's like 64 gigs of RAM on there. It has a 16 core processor. Oh no, this one is a 12 core processor on it, and I just recently put like 2 gigs of SSD storage in there. So that one is it's cool. I love it. It is a 2013. It's almost 10 years old for a computer, but kind of like Teezio was saying, like that. I mean, Tony, it's giving me zero problems. Pro Tools runs like flawlessly on it, and I just know every time it's gonna be clutch. Now, right, I also, when I'm traveling, use my MacBook Pro. This is a 2019 MacBook Pro with it's a Core i9, 64 gigs of RAM, and it's got like 8 gig video card because I do a lot of video editing on this joint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. So cheers, guys. Thank you so much. Hope that answers Cancelo's question there. And I've got a question actually. So we'll start wrapping up soon. A few more questions I'm going to kind of just swing in. As someone who's new, we've just introduced a new product, Pro Tools Artist. Why would you encourage someone who wants to get into the music industry, to the audio industry, as a YouTuber influencer in audio? There's so much working on hit records, a producer. Why would you encourage someone to start with Pro Tools Artist? Because obviously we've said, there's tons of plugins. I think 100 plus plugins that you get in instruments as well. There's so much stuff. But maybe we can start with Teezio first.
Yeah, so I feel like starting with Pro Tools is a leg up because like I was saying in the beginning, you're going to end up there anyways. Like in the beginning, let's say you're at home recording and you're using a different DAW and you're just bouncing it and putting it on SoundCloud. That's one thing. But now your career's taken off and, you know, you're now starting to send the stuff to mixers, the label signs you, all this stuff. Why not already be there to the point where you have everything in Pro Tools, where you're already knowledgeable in Pro Tools? Because at the end of the day, you're going to show up to that major studio the label just booked you for after X amount of years of not working in Pro Tools, and you're going to be right there with it. And you're not going to be able to do, you're not even going to know what's going on because there's going to be an engineer in the chair and everything is going to be new to you. You know what I mean? You're going to be like, what program is this? And it's going to be starting over. So I feel like starting and getting in with Pro Tools early is going to allow for you to just be more successful just throughout your path and your trajectory in music. Because like I said, it always ends up there no matter what. You know, there's no mixer that I know or even recording engineer, unless it's a producer who's just getting rough vocals, that doesn't use Pro Tools, you know. So might as well just get there early, right?
Yep.
And I did that too. The first DAW I ever worked in was Pro Tools. I was 15 years old and I had bought in Pro Tools Empowered 7.
Wow.
And that start, if I had started in Logic, I wouldn't have maybe learned Pro Tools until my 20s, and then I would have lost all of that. You know what I mean? I've been doing this since I'm 32 now. I'm about to be 32. So imagine how many years I have on Pro Tools.
Wow.
And now it's like there's nothing I can't do, you know?
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you, Teezio. And maybe we could go with Wayne next.
Sure. Yeah, I think a lot of what Teezio said, but I think that if you start off learning Pro Tools, it will literally translate into any other DAW that you ever need to use.
Mm-hmm.
Like once you learn Pro Tools, you can pick up, or whatever it is, right? You can pick up any other DAW and get going. Not only that, there's actually so much information out here about how to use Pro Tools. There's so many resources. You know, like my whole channel is pretty much dedicated to teaching artists and producers how to use Pro Tools. And also don't forget the professional certification programs that you can actually get into once you maybe start off with Pro Tools artists and you decide, hey, I want to make a career out of this. So you can, get a certification class and start and keep going up and learn as much about Pro Tools as you want to. So I think that other DAWs kind of lack in that educational department where Pro Tools really shines.
Mm-hmm.
And Lydia, as an artist?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just to mirror Teezio and Wayne, why would you not want to start with the leader in the industry? It just is what it is. This is something that is going to help your career because literally translates to every studio that you go to, every engineer that you're going to work with. So it just makes sense to start off, especially since the new rollout has just happened with the artist platform. You're going to get so much for $100 a month. As an artist, you spend $100 on an outfit for one show. Okay. $100 for a whole entire year of, you get so many plugins and so there's so many avenues and ways for you to learn and, get to the next level as a person who's recording themselves. So I just think it makes the most sense to go with what's leading. And like Wayne said too, a lot of people's reason for not using Pro Tools is because, it's hard or whatever the case may be. Why would you not start where there's a challenge, especially since they've made it easier for you? So then from there on, you can learn the other DAWs if you need to. So to me, it just makes the most sense to go with the leader in the game, which is Pro Tools.
Yeah. Yo, and I just want to add too, like I kind of think about it. I did like if I'm starting a team, right? And I'm thinking about, what DAW I want to use, would I go with LeBron, who's like Pro Tools? Or would I want to pick this kind of, new dude who he might be killing it in the, junior varsity somewhere, but like, who are you going to pick though? Are you going to pick the proven or are you going to pick this newcomer that maybe do something one day? That's kind of how I'm seeing it.
Yeah. No.
I like that. Smart.
Yeah.
Nice. I love that, Wayne, that last bit there. Tony?
That was a great comparison. That was funny.
Love
Against no offense to anybody on JV,
Right. All the JV dogs out there.
They're trying their best, you know what I mean?
Yes.
You know, no, I agree. I think they really said it all. And I think for me, I actually started on other DAWs. Like I actually started on like I think the first one that I ever used was Cakewalk, you know, like Sonar, Cakewalk Pro Audio, and then I went to Cubase um and then Digital Performer until I could afford Pro Tools, right? That was like the other thing is like because back then you didn't have the Pro Tools artists. There was no entry level or anything. It was a big investment. So I think this move that you guys are doing is so important because there's so many people that you know have been wanting to get into Pro Tools, but there's been one challenge is the economical challenge, especially for the countries that like Latin, you know, I'm Peruvian, you know, so a lot of my Latin American colleagues and you know, the music industry is tough everywhere. I mean, here in the US it's tough. Imagine in all those other countries where productions cost so little money, right? So Pro Tools costs the same here than it costs the same in Peru, right? So by you having this new Pro Tools artist is I think it's a game changer. It's gonna allow a lot of people to work in the right DAW now. And I think a lot of those other DAWs have come out because the necessity of just, you know, not being able to, you know, it's fulfilling a market that was there, you know. And so I think you guys made the right move.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because I'm gonna see, I think a lot of new producers out there. We're gonna see a lot of the students doing great things, and they're gonna come with other mentality. And you know, music is always constantly changing. So I think a lot of the things that are gonna be probably inspired by all this new generation, you know, we're gonna see it reflected on future versions of Pro Tools because they're always coming up with new ideas, and there's going to be a lot of things that issues that are going to come up that are going to be solved by the new wave of users. You know, this is going to bring a whole new wave of users, and that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love that. Very well said, guys. Thank you so much. We've probably got time for maybe one more, then we can start wrapping up. Just a really brief one. What's your top 5 must-haves for every studio session? We'll go with Teezio first. Oh, sorry, you're on mute, Teezio.
You could probably read my lips. I said Pro Tools. So we can start with Pro Tools. And then do we have the mic already, or are we listing off things that we need to record?
We could.
Because if not, the hand's gonna fill up. We need the microphone, we need the preamp, we need the compressor.
Okay, no.
We need Pro Tools. We need the vibe.
Yeah.
We need weed.
I wasn't going to be the one to say it.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, we need all that. You need a good engineer. That's a great start.
Mhm.
And then you need a fast computer.
Oh,
Yep.
man, that's good.
From that. Lydia?
Pro Tools, Pro Tools, Pro Tools, Pro Tools, Pro Tools. Done.
Drops mic.
No, but you know, for sure, definitely need Pro Tools. For sure, should be first for everybody. A good mic, you know, something that it's going to help you sound great and feel confident. You need confidence.
Yeah.
You need confidence. If you're going to take on this beast of like art and this art form of recording and putting music out there, you need confidence. Confidence is going to go a long way. I've seen confidence make people with little talent seem very talented, and I've seen lack of confidence make great artists seem like not as good. So confidence is really important. Something to set the vibe. So like, you know, weed, or, you know, maybe a cocktail if that's your thing, or some kind of mood lighting. I think that that's really important. And I think this like almost what Teezio said, a good engineer artist dynamic, right? If you're an artist recording yourself, that's built in, it's innate, it's just you and you. So, and that's awesome too, because I find I'm more free when I'm recording alone, because it doesn't matter. I could always, if it sounds bad, I could just do it over. When you're with somebody who you're not comfortable with, you may hold back. So like Wayne and I have a great artist engineer dynamic. I'm sure Teezio and Chris have that. They've been working together for a long time. That is so important. And that's why when artists find somebody that they have that vibe with, they stay with them forever, because it's, you know, it's like almost like a marriage, and ours is literally both. So yeah, I think that was 5.
All right, cool. I guess I'll jump in after that. Let's see, my 5 things would definitely be some type of caffeine. Let me see if I gotta have some caffeine.
You gotta have the coffee. Yeah, you gotta have the coffee. Is that black coffee, Wayne? I have to ask.
It's actually green tea.
Oh,
I switch between a black coffee and green tea depending on the type of day that I'm having. So definitely some caffeine, some ambient lighting, right?
Yeah. It can't be too bright.
Right. We need some talent though. I think that's one thing that really helps the creativity, is like if you have a good artist that you're working with, as professional engineers who do this for dollars. Sometimes you're not always working on projects that you're excited about, or working with clients that bring you, you know, some inspiration. So having that is kind of a must for me. So if you're in a situation where you can pick and choose your clientele based on, you know, what kind of vibe and energy they bring, I think that's amazing. But you don't always have that choice. But I think that's something key. Some good isolating headphones, like the Wavy One headphones that I'm using right now, that attenuate 33.4 dB of sound both ways, right? So we're not going to have microphone bleed. We'll always be able to hear each other and hear what's coming through the headphones. I think that's good. These are also available at wavywayne.com. And a work, just like Lydia said too, I think a relationship with whoever's in there, like a vibe. You have to be able to communicate with whoever you're working with, and have that feeling of freedom to experiment, to create without judgment. So definitely a judgment-free zone is also necessary.
Yeah.
Love that. Love the headphones as well, Wayne. I still need a pair, of course.
Need a pair of those.
I will. I'm gonna actually my panelists. I'm giving gifts to everybody on the panel, so I'll get y'all shipping addresses.
And then Tony, we can go with your top 5 must-have things in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, you guys kind of pinpointed a lot of them already, but if I had to put in another 2 cents for things, it's like if we're recording, you know, you have to have a good room. I always say, like, you can have the best mics, the best gears, preamps, everything could be perfect, bro, but if your room is not a good sounding room and you're going to record any type of instrument or even a vocal, even, like, it's just it'll be terrible. And it's happened before, actually, where and that's very important. Like, use your ears, like, make sure you don't forget your ears, because, like, a lot of people always these days, it enters through the eyes, so they'll be impressed by, you know, amazing lights or like screens and gear and speakers and all this. And there was one studio that I went to in Peru, actually. I was doing a production over there, and everything it looked crazy, you know, and the walls were like marble and it was amazing. But we started recording and I was in the control room, man, and it just didn't sound the way it needed to sound. And I was like, there's something wrong here. Like, there's just something off. And, you know, the engineer is one of the best out there, and comes to see is like, they're like, oh no, but you know, we're missing a couple panels and we're not finished with the studio yet. And I was like, why did you open your studio already if it's not ready to record, you know? So I had to stop the recording, and we went to another studio that was just like, it didn't look as good, but it sounded amazing, you know? So it's very important to not lose the focus of your ears will never lie to you, right? So I think, like, I'm really all about the sound, and then comes all the other stuff, right? Yeah, I mean, having that as your focus always. I worked with Bruce Swedien before he passed away a couple times, and that's one of the things that I learned from him, you know, being so old school. Like, he's all about listening, you know, and being patient. So don't forget your patience. Like, you know, like, you can't rush through these things. You can't rush through making music. Make sure you have enough time to not feel like you're pressured, right? So Those are things that are just super important to me that are always on my mind whenever I book a session or I'm doing anything. It's like having that stuff, and then just having like sugar around, to make sure that you're always like, excited and because it's so much time. This is like, I think music producing, mixing, engineering, it's such I would say, like, for the beginning years of your career, like, you're basically making no money, right? Because the amount of time you have to invest for the amount of pay, like, if you were to say how much money you make per hour, it's pennies because of how many hours you put into your work, right? Until you already find out how to, everything side of works, and then you're up in the game and you're able to make proper profit, right? But in the beginning, it's this career is meant for the people that have extreme passion. Like, that's 100%. Like, you can't be in this if you're focused on anything else but just what music really makes you feel.
Yeah.
Because at a certain point you're going to be frustrated and you're going to want to get into real estate or whatever, make real money, right? But
That's true.
but yeah, man, always remember what got you excited about this, like what when you were a kid, like what made you get goosebumps, you know what I mean? And then you'll figure out that all these moments that, I mean, a lot of people that are watching here are probably like in the beginning phases of their career, which are the beginning moments where people quit the most, right? That's the moment where people are like, they buy all the stuff and they get it and they're like, yeah, we're ready, we have everything. And then all of a sudden, they're 6 months down the line and they're like, no gigs or nothing sounds good. 2 years pass by, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and they're still kind of like struggling. But that's a part of the game,
Yes.
There's no real path that is like the same for anybody. Some people get their lucky break in the beginning, but most of us, we have to like grind. I went to school for 6 years, like, to get my master's, and when I got out of college, I was like, how am I gonna do? I have a jazz degree. It's like, what do you do with that? So yeah, just always remember that. I think I went outside of the question a little bit, but I think, like, because everybody kind of talked about what you should have, but it's kind of like, I think more things the mentality.
Yes.
Very important.
So important. So important. And that's a perfect way to actually end this panel. Well, guys, I want to say a massive, huge thank you. Wayne, Lydia, Teezio, Tony, that was absolutely amazing. I would honestly go on for another like 2-3 hours. You guys are just amazing. Thank you so much once again. And to all the Avid staff around the world and all the socials as well, thank you so much. And just want to say, guys, Pro Tools Artists, it is available now. It's one of our newer products. It is $99 a month, or it's actually a couple Wavy Wayne green teas a month as well. Sorry.
A year. $99 a year.
Sorry, guys, $99 a year. Thank you, Wayne. Or a couple Wavy Wayne green teas a month. There you go. You can do a lot on there if you're an artist, producer, also engineering. You can jump on there. Lots of plugins, So please head over to avid.com and take a look. Guys, I want to say a massive thank you again to the panelists, to those joining around the world, and everyone else who's helped put this together as well. Thank you so much, and we'll catch you soon. Take care, everyone.
Peace
Bye-bye.
out. Wavywayne.com.
Bye-bye.
Bye.